Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 106 on this Tuesday night. I got the day of the week right again.
That's, it's hard to miss on a Tuesday.
Two times in a row.
Hard to miss on a Tuesday.
We just started this week. I should know what day it is.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing? I hope everybody is doing all right. We've had a heat wave in Chicago. Yeah. We turned on the air conditioner. We had the heat on over the weekend, and now we had to turn on the air conditioner today because it was like 88 degrees outside
and then we
today.
Turned it off because it makes a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And
so
it's
hopefully
really
we won't
hot
start.
in here.
Yeah. Hopefully we won't start sweating.
Yeah.
Be like Newman when he's underneath the lights and he's like all sweating all over the place on Seinfeld. We promise that we're not going to talk about our moving every single the whole time, every single time. But just for those of you who are wondering, an update is everything's still going smoothly.
Is that an update?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It could be an update. Things are going well and moving along, so we're happy about that. And one thing that, as I mentioned before, we've just been organizing and getting rid of stuff. And I don't know, for those of you who have adult children who have moved on, I'm just curious, how many Legos do you have in your home still?
Yeah, really. We have bins.
We have bins of Legos, and I just found one today, and I was like, there's got to be something more than just in there, but Legos, and no, it's just filled.
It's Legos and old computer equipment, although some of that is ours.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a lot of it is the kids.
Yeah. So I do think it's funny because back in the day, I do remember, they probably still have this on eBay too, but people would sell Legos by the pound.
Right.
So you
just
could buy,
random,
nothing that matches, so you don't have to have a complete set. It was just, you could just weigh it and then sell it in a big thing.
Of course, that's how they used to sell them. And they weren't really kits originally. They were just it was like, if you had blocks to build stuff with, it was the same kind of thing. The sets, the specific things came later.
Mm-hmm. And most of them are just pieces, obviously, to everything. So from Bionicles to Star Wars stuff to whatever. So I'm pretty sure we're bringing them with.
Well, we might, or they might be accidentally left.
Yeah.
We also have a lot of. It's not just their stuff. We have a lot of books and things like that we don't really.
I found a bunch of your cassette tapes today.
We don't have a cassette player.
I know.
Although I think in our second to last car, it could play cassette.
Yes.
Tapes, not our current car.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
You are absolutely right. Although, did we ever play a cassette tape in there?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, we haven't had a regular cassette player in the house for ages either.
So we should, before we end up tossing them or bring them with, is that something that's valuable? Can you look up a Duran Duran cassette tape? I'm just saying. I don't know if one of them is Duran Duran, but I'm just saying.
Well, no, I didn't own any Duran. Nothing wrong with that.
This is a really weird fact, is David and I were at the same concert for Duran Duran before we met. Probably.
I think,
I'm going to say 99.9%.
I think they only played one night, so it had to have been the same.
So that's kind of freaky.
1986, maybe?
Yeah. My friend had gotten tickets and invited me, and so she and I went. And then later on we were talking about like concerts that we had been to and everything, and I said I went to see Duran Duran, and then Dave was like, I also saw Duran Duran, same place, around the same time.
It wasn't really, it was a good concert, but it wasn't really my choice, to be honest with you. But I also saw Genesis about it had to have been, I think it was in 85 maybe, or 84.
Did you like Genesis or no?
Well, they're very talented.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'll say about that. It's just not my kind of music.
Yeah.
But you can't really criticize people who are good at what they do. You know what I mean?
I always hate.
Same with Duran Duran. Duran Duran was maybe a little bit closer to what I would listen to. But regardless, I can't criticize people who are really good at what they do, even if it's not my thing,
My thing is I hate going to a concert where you're not familiar with the music or the artist, and then you end up loving it. And then you don't know any of the words or can't sing along, so that's one of my things I don't like doing.
Well, I didn't really end up loving it, but
yeah,
and the funny thing is, they were huge at the time because they were one of those bands that did that the whole sort of like comeback with videos.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were sort of well known in the 70s, but they became huge in the 80s because of MTV. And there were a lot of bands like that. I mean,
definitely.
that's Bruce Springsteen, actually. That's pretty much what happened to Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was well known, but he was much bigger in the 80s than he was in the 70s. At least in terms of like record sales and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, Duran Duran I could appreciate a lot more because they were certainly more, current.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of the concert except for there were lots of lights.
There were.
Like
They had a very elaborate stage show. But again, they're really good musicians
Mm-hmm.
too. So I mean, that's another. I mean, there's a lot I can tolerate. Well, I don't dislike them, so that's one thing. But there's a lot I can tolerate if people are good at what they do. I saw Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs play in Nashville in 1976. I don't necessarily go out of my way for bluegrass and country, but those guys were, they were some of the best musicians in the world. It didn't really matter what style of music, So I've seen opera, if it's well done.
Heck yeah.
Went to the Lyric Opera on opening night back in, 88 or something like that. Again, not really my thing, but if you're good at what you do, you don't have to like a specific thing to appreciate it.
I don't know if you saw on Facebook that the Radiators had a live concert tonight at Tipitina's.
The Radiators, when we saw them, it was sort of like a reunion tour thing.
That was at Fitzgerald's.
It was at Fitzgerald's. Mm-hmm. And I've known the Radiators for a long time. There was actually a radio station around here who used to play their music, which you wouldn't necessarily expect in Chicago. But I thought they had broken up. And I thought they were no more. And maybe it's more to benefit Tipitina's, which is a great club.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're great.
And the best thing I liked about that show is where we saw them. It's a small venue, so you're pretty close to all the action and everything. But the joy that they played with, like they've been playing for 40 years or whatever, 50 years.
Yeah.
And it was like they played for the first night. They were just so just happy and just really put it all out there. So I love bands like that.
That's New Orleans. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's it seems like everybody from New Orleans is sort of like that. They're fantastic. And there was a brief period of time where that kind of music was sort of popular, and there was a traveling show that went all over the country. It was kind of like Lollapalooza, but it was Cajun and Zydeco music, and they played at the World Music Theater down in Tinley Park, and the Radiators were there, and the Subdudes. I think Buckwheat Zydeco was there. I maybe Terrence Simeon, that I don't recall. We've seen Terrence Simeon a few times.
Yes.
All great musicians, and that's a great musical tradition. If you've ever heard the Neville Brothers, or Dr. John, you kind of have a sense of it.
Yeah. Google it. You will.
You will not be disappointed.
You will not be disappointed.
Terrence Simeon and he's still around and still making records, and he's one of my absolute favorites.
I just have to tell them a funny story. So when David and I first met, we hadn't been dating that long, and then David wanted to take me. He took me to New Orleans, and
that's true.
I was like, "This is so fantastic," because he was like, "We should go out of town." I was thinking like Galena, which is like more like just like very close to our house, like something like a bed and breakfast kind of thing. And then I had never been to New Orleans, and
I hadn't either at that point.
Yeah, and so I was like, "This is fantastic," and it was like spring, and the weather was amazing, and it was just awesome. But we were at some club where they were playing music on stage, and I actually got up on stage.
I forgot about it. It's funny that you said it. I forgot about that.
Which is so funny.
That's that I should remember that.
I know, which is so funny because in other circumstances I'm really shy and timid. I will not ask.
No, you are not. That's exactly the kind of thing that you would do. It's exactly the kind of thing. Somehow you switch places with me. That is exactly what you would do.
So there was an opportunity for me to go up on stage and put one of those things on. The washboard and play the spoons. And I did it.
And the sad thing is, we had it was even pre-digital camera.
Yes.
So a regular camera, and I did take pictures, and they probably are somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure they're in that bin we just found.
But if we had, if it was,
oh man,
if we had
if there
smartphones
was,
back
yeah,
then,
if there was social media back then,
Right.
oh crap.
Right.
I'm actually glad it wasn't.
No, for that you would have.
Yeah,
been,
for that
was
probably,
you would
yeah.
you had a pretty good time.
Yeah.
That would have been fun, and I did take pictures, but who knows where they even are.
And fast forward, we went back for our 5-year anniversary,
Our 5th anniversary,
and
2000.
we stayed in the same hotel, the Royal Sonesta. It's beautiful.
Right on Bourbon Street.
And close to everything. And there was like a little bar that was attached to the restaurant called Le Booze.
Right. Well, it was. But you could get in there from the sidewalk because
Yes.
it was just sort of like this open.
It was
air.
just like
It was part of the actual building, but it's just open air.
Yeah, so if you walked in, there was seating all the way around it, and it was just
Right.
like a bar, so you could just
Right.
walk from the street and like sit down, whatever. And we had a couple drinks there. We met a couple that was next to us who were also celebrating their 5-year wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
Had gotten married on the same day as us, so that was like really quirky. And Le Booze is still there.
Yeah, it's in the Royal Sonesta Hotel, 300 Bourbon Street in New Orleans, Louisiana.
And we just threw out a receipt from that was from. I don't know if it was from the Royal Sonesta or when we got drinks or something, but I actually just threw out a receipt from there.
Now, no one knows what we're talking about, but when I just looked it up and I'm looking at a street view of it. This, though, is that area where we saw that
The
blues
courtyard,
band
yeah.
play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which, so Les Booze is actually across the
And
street.
I did try, I had Hurricane there, which I don't recommend doing a lot of because one is enough. Especially if you don't drink hard liquor.
Well, we also went to Pat O'Brien's, where, if I remember correctly, they don't serve food, and we had Hurricanes there.
Yes.
So you're in a place that doesn't serve food, drinking Hurricanes. That may not be the best. Yeah, Pat O'Brien's is very touristy, and I guess that's fine. But
and actually, was it the first time we went there that we went to Emerald's? Or was it the second time?
No, I think it was the second time. I think we went to...
We definitely went to Commander's Palace. We went to Brennan's.
We
went to...
The funny thing about Commander's Palace is that's typically, the jazz brunch on Sundays, that's the big deal. But we actually went there for dinner, and I think that was our anniversary.
Okay, was that the one where you were like in a private room kind of thing?
Yeah,
or like
well, there were a
small
few
room?
other times, but yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's in the Garden District, and it's like it's like a giant sort of Victorian mansion. I mean, the first floor looks more like a restaurant.
Yeah, but the
you
second
go upstairs
floor
and
is like
there's
a house.
rooms
Mm-hmm.
where there may only be 4 or 5 tables. I would be fairly comfortable eating in one of those rooms now.
Yes.
Because you're not right on top of people.
And
And that was great, even though they're sort of better known for the brunch. Dinner there was fantastic.
It was, and my most impressive thing, well, besides the food and everything, was the service was like so outstanding.
Oh yeah, there were like 15 people.
Let's say, for
waiting
example,
at your table.
you're at a table of 8 people, and you know how sometimes they like bring out a few entrees, and then they go back, and then you're just like sitting there. Everything there was like one person putting down your food for every person, so it was just like everyone got their meal at the same time.
At the same time. It was very
so good.
Yeah, I mean it's very sort of European, very old fashioned, but it was great. And it's not far from the cemetery that everybody
Yes.
goes to visit
Mm-hmm.
and walk around with the above ground graves because they're below sea level.
And I always, unfortunately, then I didn't like as much seafood as I do now, so I didn't try any fit. You did a lot of seafood. I mostly did steak.
We went to that French place, and I don't know whether there was a name. It was in a hotel, also in. It was right off of Bourbon Street, so in that area. And I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a French name. The hotel has a French name. And the restaurant had French food, and I had the bouillabaisse, which I was thinking of that Seinfeld episode. I think he means try the bouillabaisse.
Yeah.
It's a long story. It's a long story.
And actually, the other funny story from the first trip, and you'll remember this too, is we went to some place for lunch where it was burgers, but then they were making the burgers on the grill and putting hubcaps on it to like.
Oh, that was right before we left.
It was right before we left, so we
they
ordered
used
burgers and they
it was
like
a shorter thing.
Yeah, so they put hubcaps on the grill to like melt the cheese, whatever, and so we each ordered a beer before we left. And the lady comes over, and I'm not joking, it was like a fishbowl of beer, and I was like, wait a second.
And I also took a picture of that.
Yes, because and I still remember that because I'd already spilled burger on my shirt. So like
but we weren't posting anything online because there wasn't any social media at the time.
So that was too funny.
That place, I want to say that place was right across the street from Preservation Jazz Hall.
The food was great, but it was just kind of like having that much beer before you have to get on a flight is not the best idea.
Yeah, then we had to jump in the because we had all our stuff with us.
Yeah,
we
did.
Had to jump in a cab and go to the airport. It's not a real long flight from New Orleans
it's
to
not
Chicago,
bad at all.
But the nice thing about going to New Orleans is it's on Central Time, so you don't have to change your watch. It's all you know exactly what time it is all the time.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we did the beignets too. So
I would go back to the French Market anytime. Chicory coffee and beignets.
And I think there's also a picture of me with wearing a black shirt, and I have the powdered sugar all over my shirt as well. But everyone does. So
right. That was a little bit. That we were a little touristy. We hung out a lot in what's the park by the cathedral.
Jackson
Square. And we spent most of our time on Bourbon Street.
And did not get our reading done or.
We didn't do anything. We did joke, however, that we should have had, because people in those days had video cameras. We didn't have a video camera with us. We thought we could have made a funny travel video of the bizarre, because New Orleans, I don't know how we got off on this whole thing about New Orleans, but New Orleans it's such a great place, but it is completely nuts. It's like, it's an incredibly sophisticated place and an incredibly unsophisticated place at exactly the same time. And those worlds live right next to each other and like overlap.
Yeah.
Which is what makes it such a great place. It's just completely insane.
It is.
That was a good trip. They were both good trips.
Can we mention what tomorrow is?
What is tomorrow?
Your birthday.
It is my birthday. Yeah, and yesterday, I don't know how we even got on.
Happy almost birthday.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know why we looked it up, but if you're familiar with Seinfeld, the actor who played Jack Klompus,
in the retirement home community,
the Seinfeld, his parents' neighbor, who they were always fighting with. That actor was in the early '90s when they were making the show. Was considerably younger than I am now.
Yes.
Like he was in his early 50s.
And he looked like he was in his 70s. I mean,
I'm only hoping that was makeup and stuff. So people always talk about the Wilford Brimley thing.
Yeah.
Like when you cross the Wilford Brimley horizon, his age in Cocoon, he was actually a lot younger than people
I want
to
say 55 or something like that. Uh-huh.
But to me, the Jack Klompus thing is more startling.
Yes.
That I'm going to be tomorrow quite a bit older than Jack Klompus, the guy who played him. The character, I presume, was supposed to be older, but the guy who played him was several years younger than I am now and will be tomorrow.
And a fun fact about me that you don't know about, that I will tell you right now, is
I don't know about?
You know about this because I do it all the time, is I always look up how old people are. It doesn't matter.
That is true.
Yeah,
you do that.
I do it all the time just to see, like, are they younger than me, older than me, and then, kind of thing. So that's how we ended up doing it, because I was like, I wonder if this person is still alive. He is not. I'm so sorry. But then I saw when he was born, and then we were like, looking at the date of the show from Seinfeld last night, obviously did the math, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
so that was kind of crazy.
That was very bizarre. But that's sort of your equivalent of what we always joke about this with my siblings. Some of us, and I don't anymore because we don't get like the hard copy of the newspaper anymore. But there is a long tradition. I think of it as an Irish tradition of just reading the obituaries. I would do it all the time on the train coming home. And
would do
one of my
it.
sisters always talks about that, reading the obituaries.
Yeah, I would actually do that when we used to get like our local paper, like the Wednesday Journal.
Well, that makes
or
a little
the
bit more
Oakley's,
sense,
Yeah,
because
then you could just like see.
Right. But I'm talking about the Chicago Tribune, and on more than one occasion, I ended up having to go to a wake. Sometimes like that day, like you'd be like, oh, that.
Okay, this is what's happening right now.
Yeah, there's a wake tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened a couple of times.
So yeah, I sometimes look at that too. I don't know why, but it's just kind of like, and actually there's a face group. It's kind of not a fun fact, but there's a face group page for the high school that we went to for like the 4-year period where I was in high school, that has an in memoriam for people, and it's just kind of like, I don't look at that one very often because it's like, it's not that sad. But anyway, so you've got your guitar, and then we're gonna have a giant party tomorrow.
We should have put this off until tomorrow.
We could have, and we could have popped some champagne or whatever.
We don't have any
Hi,
champagne.
Gordy.
Gordy's coming into the room, very confused because we put air conditioners in the window.
Yeah, she was very needy today. She cried a lot.
Crying very loud.
And we were like right there, and I was like, "Come on."
When we're trying to, this is one last thing I'll say about the impending move is that, and it's even more so now with the pandemic and everything, but even without that, you do so many things electronically, signing documents, approving this, that, and the other thing, and then invariably you have to be able to send those documents to people, your lender or the the other lawyer, the brokers, whatever. And it's one of the most frustrating things in the world is, you get these PDF documents and they're gigantic.
Yeah.
They're these huge files. And the thing is, I know what you're thinking is, oh yeah, but you can just, if you have the full version of Adobe and some other, probably other programs, you can reduce the size. You can't if it's a verified, protected document.
They don't want you to alter it.
Right. The whole point of doing all this stuff electronically and signing it, it's got to be secure. But then if you've got the document, like we had to go to a particular website and sign a bunch of things, and then you could download them. However, and that included our contract.
Right.
However, now I don't have permission to alter the document at all, including making it a smaller file.
Mm-hmm.
So that I probably spent an hour trying to figure out a workaround, and it didn't work.
It didn't work.
So that's today's complaint about the move or the house purchase.
Yes.
It doesn't really have to do with the move specifically, but
right. But I kind of feel we're in a good spot, going through things slowly and just figuring out what we have and such like that. So it's all good.
I suppose that's true.
All right. So the next time we do our show, you're going to be a year older.
What am I, 5?
So yeah.
At a certain point, you don't really want to say that anymore.
That's true. But anyway, we hope you guys have a good rest of the evening, and we will definitely talk to you next time. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.